This presentation will cover soil rehabilitation techniques on small and large-scale homestead sites. In the U.S., we lose up to 6 billion tons of topsoil each year due to erosion. Erosion results in a leaching and loss of nutrients from the soil, soil compaction, and a reduction of the soil's water retention capacity. Agricultural fields that are left fallow are the most prone to erosion from water and wind. Perennial agriculture and no-till farming methods are ways to combat erosion. Get to know your soil by finding local soil maps on the internet. In Massachusetts, the best source of soil information is the GIS database Oliver. Go to the Oliver website and type in your address. Look in the Available Data Layers menu on the right-hand side of your screen and scroll down to Physical Resources. Click on Soil and then click on Soil Polygons with map unit names. Zoom into your location and you will see your soil type outlined on the map. You can learn a lot about your soil by doing some research on your soil type. The things to look into are your soil structure, texture, and general characteristics. Is your soil a clay soil, a sandy soil, or a loam? Make it a point to actively observe your soil in different places at your site. After you've gathered some information about your soil, consider having a soil test performed by your local agricultural extension office. Soil tests are inexpensive and can help solve major imbalances up front before you invest a lot of time and energy in planting. In order to obtain a soil test, you'll need to send in some soil samples. Take soil samples at a time when the soil is not too wet. Dig a hole that's 6 to 8 inches deep and then slice a sample from the side of the hole that represents all soil horizons or layers. Take 8 to 10 different samples from parts of your property and mix them together in a bucket. Then take approximately 1 cup of the soil mixture and place it in a gallon Ziploc bag, labeled with your name and address. Send the soil sample, your testing form, and a check to your local agricultural extension soil testing lab. Do a Google search for your state to find your local soil testing laboratory. Your soil test results will contain a lot of information, but the 3 things to look for first are your soil pH. Your pH should be between 6 and 7. Adjust your pH accordingly with soil amendments. Recommendations will be given in your soil test results. Next is your phosphorus index. You want to get your levels of phosphorus between 30 and 50 parts per million. Your levels of potassium should be between 80 to 100 parts per million. Some sources of phosphorus that you can use as a soil amendment include bone meal and rock phosphate. Sources of potassium include green sand, kelp, or granite meal. Your soil test will probably not measure the levels of nitrogen due to its transient nature, but you want to be sure that you have a source of nitrogen such as compost, blood meal, or alfalfa meal added to your soil at this time as well. Let's talk a bit about soil pH. pH stands for the potential hydrogen, and it's a measure of the acidity or alkalinity of the soil or a solution. Every point change in pH indicates a tenfold increase or decrease in acidity or alkalinity. For example, water, which has a pH of 6, is 10 times more acidic than water with a pH of 7. If the pH is too low, acid salts chemically bind nutrients, which means that they are not available to plants. If the pH is too high, this also causes the nutrients to become unavailable. Modifying your pH. Plants are only able to use minerals and nutrients when the pH is within a certain range, usually between 6 and 7. This chart shows the availability of minerals at different pH levels. The width of the colored bars indicates how available the mineral is at a certain pH. For example, look at the orange phosphorus bar. Phosphorus is not very available to plants in the pH range of 4 to 5.5, as you can see by the thin orange line. But starting at a pH of 6, we can see that the orange bar for phosphorus starts to widen, indicating that it is very available to plants at this pH level. Add limestone to raise the pH of an acid soil, and add sulfur to lower the pH of a basic soil. Plants require minerals and nutrients in sufficient quantities to build the compounds they need for optimal growth and vigor. The first thing that plants build are simple sugars through photosynthesis. After the simple sugars are made, the plant can then make complex carbohydrates, which require drawing minerals in from the soil. After complex carbohydrates are constructed, the plant can start to make complete proteins. At any point in this cycle, if the nutrients in the soil are scarce, the plant will not be able to make the next level of compounds. In this case, it would be lipids or essential oils. The highest level of plant compounds are called plant secondary metabolites. These include phytonutrients, for example, carotenoids and flavonoids, and antioxidants, for example, ascorbic acid or vitamin C. If a plant is lacking minerals in the soil, they will not be able to build the higher level phytonutrients and antioxidants, which serve the function of both protecting the plant from pests and disease and increasing the nutritional profile of the plant for human consumption. Visit the Bionutrient Food Association website to learn more about plant nutrients. Here are some common sources of minerals that you can add to your site. Local rock dusts, which are applied at a rate of 14 pounds per 100 square feet. There's a rock dust primer at remineralize.org that can get you started. Green sand is a source of potassium and trace minerals. Bone meal is a source of phosphorus. Sea vegetables, including seaweed, and diluted seawater are also important sources of minerals if you happen to live by the ocean. A cover crop is a plant whose primary function is to improve the soil. Cover crops are grown right up until just before flowering, and then normally they are cut down, adding rich organic matter to the soil. Rhizodeposition is the process by which cover crops manufacture sugar, which are deposited through the roots of the plant. These sugars feed microorganisms, which exchange nutrients for the sugars, forming a mutualistic relationship with plant roots. Cover crop roots are often deep-rooted. The oat roots shown on the left are about 6 feet deep. On the right, you'll see a field planted with buckwheat. Other examples of cover crops that are often used are clovers, beans, and cereal grains. Cover crops such as daikon radishes can drill through compacted subsoil layers. Many farmers leave whole radishes in place to decompose and open up air spaces in the soil. When these deep-rooted plants die, the root system decomposes and allows water and oxygen to penetrate the lower soil horizons. The next crop may then utilize the rooting network created by the previous plants. Soil food webs are based on the amount and diversity of organic matter that's available in the soil. The photo on the left shows plant root hairs, where exchanges of water and minerals occur. The photo on the right is a close-up of a root hair with bacteria symbiotically interacting with the plant root system. The plant roots manufacture sugars, which allows the bacteria to feed, and in turn, the bacteria provide minerals and nutrients to the plant roots from their waste products. Nitrogen fixation is the process by which certain species of soil bacteria form beneficial relationships with plant roots. The bacteria are able to fix or convert atmospheric nitrogen into the form that plants can use, NH3 or ammonia. Rhizobacteria are able to convert this gaseous nitrogen to ammonia, making it an available nutrient to the host plant, which can support and enhance the growth of that plant. Nitrogen-fixing plants often have root nodules where the bacteria reside. Some unusual nitrogen-fixing plants that you can use in your garden include bush clover, which is a large shrub with edible leaves that taste somewhat like spinach. It's pictured on the left. Gumi, pictured in the middle, is a small shrub that produces edible fruit for jams and jellies. Fava bean, pictured on the right, is a fast-growing annual that can be used as a cover crop. Broad forks are a useful tool for aerating and loosening soil on a small scale. The fork is placed on the soil, and you step up onto the fork to use your weight to sink the tool into the ground. You then leverage your weight back and forth, pull back on the handles to gently lift the soil upward. Watch a video by going to the Meadow Creature Broad Fork website. Please follow up this presentation by viewing the Prezi presentation called Soil Building Techniques. The link can be found in the lecture section for this week. In the Prezi, you will be introduced to sheet mulching, vermicomposting, chop and drop mulching, bio-intensive double digging, and crop rotation.